Your father, Gerald Wilkins, played in the NBA 13 seasons. Did you feel some pressure in the world of basketball?
My life after basketball is going to be better than my life doing basketball. I want people to do things because they saw me do it, or believe that they can do things because they saw me believe that I can do it.
Y'all were not making friends the first year of Overtime Elite. And why is that? Welcome to Vault Empowers Talks, where we don't just scratch the surface. We dive deep into the lives of some of the world's most amazing change makers. And today is no different. I'm your host, Brandi Harvey. But before I introduce my guest for the day, I need you to go ahead and do me a favor. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss your daily dose of inspiration and motivation. But without further ado, I get to introduce this amazing man sitting next to me. Damien Wilkins is a University of Georgia alumni and an NBA veteran who played in the NBA for over 10 seasons. In 2015, Wilkins represented the United States in the Pan American Games, where he won a bronze medal. Currently, Damien serves as the general manager and head of basketball at Overtime Elite, a league for 16 to 20-year-olds based in Atlanta, Georgia. You can watch his journey as GM and the players' development as part of a 6-part docuseries, One Shot Overtime Elite on Prime Video. Damien is leading the charge on what has become one of the most fascinating concepts in the world of basketball. Wilkins is a bona fide basketball legend and is making a tremendous impact on each and every player that walks through the doors at OTE. He believes it's about devotion, wins, losses, and resilience. Vault Empowers Talks welcome legend, leader, and father Damien Wilkins to the show.
Hi.
Hi.
That was amazing.
You get reintroduced to yourself.
That was
Listen,
intense.
yeah, you get introduced to yourself. It's a pleasure for you to sit down here today.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited. I told you off camera that, I watched the docuseries, and that's really the reason why you're here, because I rolled into Overtime Elite One Shot, and I didn't know what to expect. And there I saw you. I said, oh my God, we got to get this man on the show. We got to talk about Overtime Elite.
Well, I got to call Amazon and let them know that that's what happened. See if they can put something in the mail.
It's working. That's that overflow.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm excited. You are the general manager at Overtime Elite based here in Atlanta. But you are no stranger to basketball. You are a bona fide legend. You carry this dynamic name, the Wilkins name. And so you know a little something about the sport.
A little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit. Yeah. Basketball has been good to me and my family for sure.
Yeah.
I don't take that for granted at all.
Yeah. It's been good to you, but you've had some challenges along the way. You weren't one of those people who just shot out the rocket.
No.
You went from All-American, high school All-American, to doing kind of this like transfer of college. You ended up at University of Georgia. Yeah. So talk about your journey.
Well, it was no elevator ride up, that's for sure.
Not at all.
I had to take the stairs. I was a McDonald's All-American. I was the #1 player in the country my senior year of high school. I went to North Carolina State. My mom at the time was living in Washington, North Carolina, where I was actually born. It's about outside of Greenville, North Carolina, outside of the ECU campus on the east coast of North Carolina. And throughout my high school years, she never really saw me play because at the time I was living with my dad. So when NC State offered me a scholarship in Raleigh, North Carolina, it was an hour and a half away from where she lived. So I just was like, I'm going to go here so she can see me play.
Yeah.
And for my mom's side of the family to watch me play, it wasn't a decision that I happily made. I wasn't truly satisfied with it. I did it for other people and not myself. And looking back, that was my first mistake in terms of choosing the college. Was clearly unhappy there, so I transferred to University of Georgia, where my uncle also was at in Athens, Georgia, and that was just a much better place for me. I was happier. I was playing the game a lot happier. And I felt like I was in an environment that was home.
Yeah.
And then going into my senior year, we got bounced out of the tournament due to a violation that one of my teammates and coaches had. So that was more adversity that hit, and I had to spend my senior year there under a coach I really didn't want to play for. That's not the coach that I went there for, because coach I went there for got fired because of that violation. So tumultuous college experience, to say the least. But I learned a lot. It helped me grow as a person, as a man.
Yeah.
And then it helped me also to start developing a persistence, for dealing with adversity and all those things. And it also taught me, God laughs at our plans.
Doesn't he always?
It taught me that as well. So left college. After I graduated my senior year, I was happy to be in college that long, to be able to get my degree. It was something that no one in my family had ever done. So that meant a lot to me. And then I went undrafted and signed with the Seattle Supersonics at the time in '03. And then we moved from Seattle to Oklahoma City, which is now the Oklahoma City Thunder. So, and then the rest is kind of like history, as they say.
Did you feel some pressure? I mean, your father, Gerald Wilkins, played in the NBA 13 seasons. Your uncle is Damien Wilkins, legend here in Atlanta. Did you feel some pressure in the world of basketball to live up to the Wilkins name in any way?
Sometimes.
I mean, now my last name Harvey. Now I know it's got to feel something.
It's
got to be some pressure.
You know the vibes. You know the vibes.
You know the vibes. Listen.
Sometimes, but you know what? I fought it.
Yeah.
I fought it for so long, man.
Don't we all?
I didn't want to wear the same number that they wore. I didn't want to train and work out with my dad in the summertime. I fought it as much as I could, and honestly, like, my career actually went a lot smoother when I just stopped fighting it and I embraced who I was. Like, it was, the last name wasn't changing no matter what number I wore, right? Like, I couldn't change that. So I just embraced it, and I used it as a tool to help me get better every day. I just kept fighting and working and doing all the things that I needed to do that I can control to be the best person and player that I could be. And it was just like, I'm never going to stop being a Wilkins. And once I realized that, that ironically kind of took the pressure off. Trying to fight the pressure was the hardest thing to do, because there was a pressure that was never going to leave. Right? Like, my dad and my uncle were going to be my dad and my uncle regardless. I was going to be a Wilkins regardless. But I fought it. I did. I fought it. And even to this day, honestly, like, unless I'm sitting down with people like you and platforms like this, I never really talk about my basketball career. It just never comes up in conversation. I never really speak on it. I use certain examples throughout my career to help the young men that I'm with now, but for the most part, it's like, someone told me a long time ago, one of my best friends, like probably my third year in the NBA, that my life after basketball is going to be better than my life doing basketball. Basketball for me was going to just be a step. Like, just something to put me somewhere. But after that, my career was going to be more so the thing that actually catapulted me to something bigger and better. And I don't know for sure if that's happening right now, but it feels like it's a lot of relevance in my life right now. A lot of big things are on the horizon that I honestly couldn't have imagined.
I would have to, I really have to agree that you are definitely in the middle of something that is brewing that is very, very big, because Overtime Elite, you came in wanting to give back to the players. Like, your whole really after basketball career was about, giving back to the players, giving back to the game they gave to you. And so you walk into Overtime Elite, not as the general manager at first. You started off as a different role in 2021, 2020. Yeah.
At the time, I had just retired from playing in 2017. And this is why I said off camera, I haven't had a break in stride yet. I retired, and my last game played was April of 2017. I started working for the Players Association, which is the union of NBA players. I started working for them. I had two offers. I had an offer from the NBA office, and I had an offer from the Players Association. And I wanted to be involved more so with players and not so much the business side of the game, because the business side of the game tends to snake or confuse players. And people on the business side usually take advantage of what players come from, well, where players come from, take advantage of what they don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be a part of that. And so I started working for the Players Association, and that's all about helping players, career development, post-career development, all of those things. So that was what I wanted to do. And then, I got a call from, someone that was working actually in my position now at the time. It was like, I think what we need here is someone like you and your knowledge of players and helping guys understand and transition into professional basketball and things of that nature, because at that time, that was our model. It was all professional players coming into Overtime Elite. They were signing pro contracts and giving up their college eligibility. And that's the only way we could get players signed in year one. So I started working. I accepted the job at Overtime Elite, and it was hard for me to leave the Players Association. It was really difficult. And I was betting on something that was unknown, unproven.
Yeah.
We didn't even have a building at the time. So
they hadn't built that big barn down there at Atlantic Station.
It wasn't built yet. I was like, what am I doing? But my boss at the time, his name is Purvis Short at the Players Association, encouraged me to take this job because he was like, you actually get to go on and make our jobs easier because you can tailor those guys to be better equipped for professional basketball, and then it actually takes a lot of pressure off of our plate because of where you get to see them.
Yeah.
And, after I talked to him about it at length, I accepted the job as Dean of Athletes and Dean of Athlete Culture and Experience. Super long title. I still don't even know what it means. I worked with the guys closely hand to hand. I actually moved into our league housing with them.
Wow.
So I was
down there in them apartments.
Yeah.
Bless your heart.
Man, I'm still traumatized.
I bet you are.
Every time I ride by that building, my stomach started hurting. I was seeing a lot like that I probably shouldn't have saw.
You like, I am too grown for this.
Yeah, I was like, I'm walking out every day, getting on the elevator. I got, gray in my beard. I'm like, man, I'm too old to be in this building. But it was an experience. It was a learning experience. It was a growing experience.
Yeah.
And it was something that I really appreciated because I got to know those guys on a personal level in year one, and the connections that I made with those relationships, they're valuable. And it was a lot of trust built up from that. And then, that summer, I got asked by the CEO, that the general manager spot was vacant, like, as soon as the season ended. And, I got asked by our CEO, Dan Porter. He said, hey, like, if you want to do this, like, it could be yours. And we talked about it for like a month and a half.
Wow.
Like, I didn't want to accept it right away, even though I knew I wanted it. I wanted to do it, but I wanted to know what all it entailed at this level.
Yeah, because it's different than the NBA.
Very.
Because you're working with 16 to 20-year-olds.
You're working with parents.
You're working with kids and parents, and the parents is the problem.
Well, I tell parents all the time, I'm probably the last general manager that will pick up your phone call. So it was a transition that I had to learn more about, a position I had to learn more about, the nuances and everything.
Yeah.
But I was excited about the opportunity to do it. And, once we ironed out all the details of it, what he wanted my role to be, things that he expected, what success looked like, I was like, all right, let's do it.
Yeah.
And here I am, still in that role.
I mean, what success looks like. I mean, you guys came out the gate as true disruptors in the game of basketball. And people were not happy. Y'all were not making friends the first year of Overtime Elite. And why is that?
Well, I think people are just used to what they're used to.
Yeah.
Right? And society tells us all the time, like, this is what you have to follow. It's like a path mapped out for everyone.
Yeah.
Right? You wake up, you catch a bus, you go to public school, private school. Everyone in there gets the same curriculum. You go off to college if you're an athlete. You spend 4 years in college, then you go on and do the thing that ultimately makes you money, I guess, as a trade. And that's what everyone has always done.
Yeah.
So to take kids out of high school, out of that traditional path, pay them, give them this accelerated development with where they're spending 4 hours in class a day as opposed to 7, and then training all day and things of that nature, building their brands, talking to them about health and performance and what that looks like, customized academic plans. Like that was new to people. And one of the things that I always say is a very dangerous statement is that we've always done it that way. Because you don't evolve when you stick to that mentality. And I think what we did is show people that there are other paths that you can take. There are other recipes for success. It doesn't have to be, door A. It doesn't have to be door B. It could sometimes be door C. And that's what works for people. And, we've proven that. We have, in less than 3 years, we have 15 guys playing professional basketball. Some, I don't know, 7 guys playing in major Division I colleges right now. And then of those guys, 4 of them are going to be, in the first round drafted in this upcoming draft. So we're doing our part.
So the beauty of this program at Overtime Elite is these kids really get to choose their path. Some of these kids are getting paid, and they're getting paid, upwards of like $100,000 starting base, right? Or more. But then they also have this opportunity to do a scholarship track, right?
Yes. So we have 2 paths. One path is the pro option that you spoke of, where you sign a pro contract, you get paid that minimum of $100,000, and the downfall, well, not downfall, if you will, but the gamble in that is that you have to forfeit your college eligibility. And for some, that's a scary thing to do. And then we have the scholarship option, where you just come in as if you're just like if you were signed with a college. You just get a scholarship, room and board, all those things. And then we have, for those guys as well, they have an opportunity to sign individual NIL deals through various companies. So they can still profit, if you will, doing the scholarship option. And that's probably that's the path that we would say we encourage the most. And it also gives us a lot of flexibility with recruiting.
Is it, when you watch the series, because I have watched the series, and I've watched the series twice. But when you got views. I added to the views. But when you watch the series, you see these kids who are coming. They're like the best of where they come from, whether it's Norcross or somewhere in Carolinas or wherever. They're the best where they are. And then they get placed in an environment with other kids who are the best where they are. And so there has to be this hierarchy that they feel. They have to feel this level of like intimidation at some points, whether they're getting playing time. How has that been? Because these are teenagers.
It's challenging for a lot of them, and that's why we always say you have to love it to do it. You have to love it. You have to love the game of basketball to come to OTE, because it's really competitive. And you go from being the best player in your respective environment that you came from to being one of the best players in our building. And that's very difficult for a lot of guys to be in such a competitive, high-level environment, high-intensity environment. Every day you're going against a guy that's either just as good as you or better, just as big as you or bigger, just as strong as you or stronger. You're not competing against, Peter, who is majoring in math at your local high school, who couldn't care less whether or not he plays basketball. He's doing it because he might be tall, or his parents are making him play a sport. So that's where the iron sharpens iron mentality comes from. And it's like you embrace that challenge, or you run from it. And, for the most part, we've had guys embrace it, and it's proven dividends because, guys are getting better every day that way when you're competing against someone, that is just as good as you are.
Talk about competing against people who are better than you, right? You all really struck gold with the Thompson twins. These kids have been laser focused since they were little, right? They're 9 years old with dreams of becoming NBA stars. They come to Overtime Elite, and they basically become the two-headed monster on the City Reapers. They was over there just cutting up, and then they go 4 and 5.
Yeah.
in the last draft, the NBA draft. They go 4 and 5, right?
Yep.
I mean, do you feel some pressure as a general manager to strike that iron again and create that magic?
No, I
Okay.
don't actually.
Yeah.
I think people in the basketball world understand you're not going to always have lottery picks that come from, your program,
Yeah.
right? Like you talk about the Dukes, the Carolinas of the world, the Kentuckys. Like they don't have a lottery pick every year.
Yeah.
Some years they do, some years they don't, right? Like that's just how it goes.
Yeah.
Those guys, they come from an amazing family,
Yeah.
right? Their background is very disciplined. Their parents did an amazing job with them, and I think they're the ones that don't really get enough credit, right? Like it's only those guys grew up with hard work and discipline instilled in them,
Yeah.
which in turn was, it's a result. You see the results now.
Yeah.
They embraced everything that we threw at them, and they accepted the challenge every day of getting better, and they knew what they wanted to do, and they were two of the guys that, like I said, they showed, and then they proved every
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
It was an everyday process for them, and I know it was daunting at times, challenging at times, and exhausting at times, but they always remembered the bigger picture,
Yeah.
and they were rewarded for that at the end.
Yeah.
That's not going to be everyone's path because, one, everyone doesn't come from that type of background. Two, everyone's not willing to sacrifice what they've sacrificed to work as hard as they did. We obviously encourage that every day, but that's not everyone's
Yeah.
mentality, right? Just like everyone can't go 4 and 5.
Yeah.
And so congratulations and kudos to them and their family for instilling those things into them to help them become who they have
Yeah.
become. And they're going to have really successful NBA careers because I don't ever see that work ethic going anywhere.
Yeah. I really want you, because I know there are some people who are going to listen to this and they're going to be like, oh, my child, I want to sign my child up. I know my child is good. They
Yes.
bomb. They nice out there on the court.
Oh, yeah.
I want to sign my kid up. My child needs to come down to overtime elite. But I really want you to talk about that parent buy-in, because there's this buy-in not just with the athlete, but there's the buy-in with the parent as well. And you kind of led in that with the Thompson twins, because they already had that work ethic. They had that discipline. But what is it going to take for an athlete to really thrive in the program?
It takes a lot of discipline.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of hard work. And again, you have to love it.
Yeah.
You have to love the game to be there. It's a highly competitive environment, and every day we're asking excellence of you from every department that you touch, be it academics, on the court, in the weight room, social and branding, all of those things. We're asking for you to be your absolute best. So you talk 8, 9, sometimes 10 hours a day. We're asking you to be at this high level, right? And at such a young age where you don't even understand, you don't even know what you don't know yet. So it could be tough for people. And, we're the ones here with them every day, pushing that and encouraging them and working them the way we do. And it makes them sometimes want to go to their parents and say, man, this is too hard.
Oh, I saw it in the docuseries. There's a lot of calling mamas.
Yeah, it is.
It was a lot of mama calls.
That gets it kind of gets in the way because they feel like if they feel like they have an out of something just by making a phone call home or having their parents come down and talk to us, then that's what they're always going to rely on. But I always tell our guys and our parents, it's like when they get in the real world, like there ain't no calling home. Because no one's gonna care. They're just gonna shuffle you out and shuffle the next person in who is willing to, do the work without complaints. So it is a buy-in that we have to get from them. And I tell them, listen, if we recruit your kid, you sign up to be here, then you have to trust us. Like we know what we're doing. And we could use their help in terms of encouraging their sons to be their absolute best every day. We're not asking them to be perfect. We just want them to be their best every day. And You get some parents sometimes that fight the system a little bit, and it's because they're passionate about their kids.
Yeah.
They love their kids, so they don't know any other way. They come from situations prior to coming to Overtime Elite where they could just reach out and call a coach, or they could come to their practices because their kid was the best kid on the team. And that's not the case here. Like, everyone here is good. And we try our best to treat everyone fairly. Not the same, because everyone's not going to get treated the same, but everyone will get treated fairly. Just like Austin Reeves, for instance, probably doesn't get treated the same as LeBron James, but Austin Reeves probably gets treated fairly. So we try to just work with them and understand them and hear them out when they do call us about things or their concerns. But we do our best to maintain our standards.
What does a typical day at Overtime look like when you talk about these unseen hours? Because, of course, these kids are playing at high levels when they get on the court on Fridays, on the weekends. They're playing in a sold-out, arena. They got the pyro. They got big sponsors. They got all the things. But what do those unseen hours really look like for an athlete coming into the program?
So they are on their way their wake-ups are like 7 a.m. They start getting up. They're on their way to our building around 7:30, between 7:30 and 7:45. They have breakfast. They have a lift. They have an individual workout. They have a lift. They have a practice, a team practice. And then they have a break class from 11:30 to around 2:33. And then they're back on the court for their individual workouts. And then after their individual workouts, they might have some type of social and branding obligation, some type of, photo shoot for NIL obligations or whatever, and then they're gone for the day. So they're in the building from about 7:30 to, I would say, about 6:37.
This is a full job.
It is a full job.
This is a full job. And I think that that's what people have to understand, because everybody thinks that they're great, right? But this is a full-time commitment.
It is.
If you want to do this at this level.
It is. As long as that day is, you do, you have to look at it and say, well, for 4 of those hours they're in class, the rest of the time they're working on their individual games. Like, they're working on what they're actually there for. And I didn't say this, but obviously we provide lunch for them as well. They have a
they in a full. They have a full state of the art facility.
Yeah.
I mean, this is like top of the line food, like any D1 school, any pro team.
Our building is better than some of the practice facilities that I've played in the NBA.
Yeah,
like, they have a chef there around the clock preparing meals for them throughout the day while they're in the building, preparing meals for them that they can take back to our league housing, which is like right across the street. We put them in 2 different buildings, one building for our younger guys and another building for our upperclassmen guys.
Yeah.
That's secured and patrolled by security 24 hours.
Yeah.
Once they're in our building, though, they're not allowed to go back to league housing because we always lose them once they do that. They'll get on video games, everyone's phone on do not disturb. So once they leave in the morning, we lock all the doors to the entries. They can't get back in. They stay in our building, get all of their stuff.
Y'all done Joe Clark these kids.
Yeah, we've learned a valuable lesson in year 1. So it's very intense. Yeah. And those who embrace it get the most out of it. And you got to make fun of it. I don't want to make it sound like a military program, but it's intense. It's also, they have their fun as well. It can also be a relaxed environment. Yeah. And those that embrace the mentality of, this is just basketball. I'm just doing basketball things. You're going to be working harder than you probably ever worked before. Yeah. So it can get taxing on their bodies. Their bodies are kind of go into shock almost, because it's like, whoa, I've never done this before. Yeah. So we provide all the recovery for them, massages, all the things.
I mean, hot full tub, cold recovery facility as well.
Yep.
But the thing about it is, it's not just about their physical, it's their mental as well, because you all really focus on their mental health.
We do. We have an in-house mental health therapist.
Shout out to Dr. Joy.
Dr. Joy Beckwith. She's the GOAT.
She is.
She was actually my therapist. Well, I don't say was.
She was my therapist too.
Was my therapist.
I just told your team that.
Yeah.
She was my therapist.
She was my
I
therapist.
worked with Dr. Joy for years.
Me too. Prior to even Overtime Elite, she was my therapist. She was the person I went to for years.
Oh, wow. Look, well, go ahead. Let me give you a little high five. Come on, Dr. Joy alum.
Yeah, she was my girl. So she took. I'm sorry about that.
Your phone?
It's okay. But she was my girl. She took care of me.
Yeah.
Helped me see some things and learn some things about myself.
Absolutely.
And when our CEO came to us and was like, we need to find someone to help these guys for that, I was like, oh, I know the person.
Yes, she is.
I know the person.
Yeah.
So I went to her office on Buford Highway.
On Buford, yeah. Pre-COVID.
I scheduled an appointment for her. I scheduled an appointment with her to talk about this.
Wow.
So she thought I was coming in there to sit on the couch.
Wow.
And I was like, no, I'm coming to get you. Like, we need you over here, and are you willing to do this? And she was, she's great.
Oh, my goodness.
She's great with our guys. She schedules times with them all day, every day. A lot of things that I even do in my role, I got to run by Dr. Joy to make sure all the guys are good. But she's great for them. They love her. They talk to her all the time, spend a lot of time with her, and she's been a tremendous addition to what we're doing.
Yeah, because I think when you watch the docuseries, you really see, and I really want our audience to go and check out the docuseries on Prime if you have not, on Prime Video. But when you see it, you see these kids who are really struggling emotionally because they do come from all different walks of life, all different backgrounds. They're dealing with death in their family. They're dealing with emotional issues from childhood. They're dealing with all these things. And then some of them are coming with that added pressure of being really breadwinners for their households.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right?
Yeah, that's pressure.
Yeah, like you're 17 years old and you're making more money than your parents ever made.
Yeah.
Like in 1 year.
Yeah.
Right? And now it's like that parents oftentimes become like the friend.
Yeah.
Because it's like, wait a minute, I don't want to upset the breadwinner in the house. But like you can't, they still have to be kids.
Yeah.
And you still have to be a parent. And I'd imagine it's tough and challenging.
Yeah.
For some, depending on your background and your level of education, your financial acumen.
Yeah.
But you always have to be a parent.
Yeah.
And that's tough for some people. I certainly don't interfere with, try not to get in the way or tell people how to parent their children. But I try to show that as opposed to telling that.
Oh, well, you really get to show because your son is now in OTE.
Right.
Yeah, Jaden.
Yeah.
Your son's name is Jaden. He's one of the youngest players to come into OTE.
Yeah, he's one of 3 freshmen that we have.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So how was that experience, Dad? GM?
It's great, honestly. One of our coaches tell me all the time, like, you should write a book about how to parent an OTE kid. It's tough for me to not watch his practices or be that helicopter parent that's always there hovering. Yeah. And in my role, I know for him, he may be like, I'm the GM's son, but he really just, he knows the system because he's been there just as long as I have. In terms of just like coming around. Yeah. He's been around it. He loves basketball. So when I accepted the job, he was, he used to come into the building, see the guys all the time, hang out with them, work out with them. So, he loves that aspect of it, and he gets out of it everything that he puts into it. He has all A's and B's. He is never late, never misses anything.
Oh, listen.
Always
he bet not.
Everything. And sometimes I actually want him to be, if that makes sense. Like
Why is that?
Because I want him, I don't want to make him feel like he can't be a kid or can't be a 15-year-old. Like, you're going about your days. I'm looking at his attendance record and it's perfect. Like no tardies, no absences. I'm like, bro, like be late once. Like just, oversleep one time. Like just because I feel like oftentimes, like, I don't want him to have this added pressure on him because of who I am and my position at OTE. I want him to enjoy the process, and I want him to always do the right things, but I also want him to make mistakes.
Yeah.
I want him to learn from mistakes and grow through trial and errors.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't want him to just grow up thinking he has to always be perfect every day. However, the work that he's doing and the perfection, if you will, that he displays, it's paying off for him.
Yeah.
You know, he just had his career high the other night. He had 23 points, 7 threes. You know, the youngest guy to do that. He was the youngest person to start a game at OTE. He just got his first offer from the University of Georgia.
I saw that, University of Georgia. He following some family footsteps.
Yeah, he just got that first offer, and that's going to be one of many.
Yeah.
So I'm happy that the work that he's doing is showing up and showing out, and it's just a product of the discipline that he shows and the things that he wants to do, and I couldn't be more proud of him.
Yeah, but I think that is a testament to you leading by example, because even with your years in the league, you know, your years in leadership, you still are putting in the work, right? When people aren't watching, you still working out, you still eating
Every
right,
morning.
you still doing the thing, right?
Yeah.
Letting them know you're not the old man out there, right?
Yeah, well, I'm still the old man. I'm still the old man. I get out there with those guys, and the next day my body is like, man, what were you thinking? But yeah, I've always been kind of that way. Like, I've always been afraid to not work hard. I'm a Capricorn, number one, which is, you know.
It's in your Instagram bio. You're a Capricorn.
Yeah.
111. I said, he is very proud about this.
I am. I get a lot of people talk a lot of trash to me about that too. Like, oh, you're a Capricorn. Like, I didn't know it was such a bad thing, but I'm
Y'all
learning.
are very focused, but very sturdy.
Yeah,
very sturdy people.
So I've always been that way. My son, he watched me throughout my career.
Yeah.
You know, he's my oldest, so he's been around me, you know, a long time. He's always been a daddy's boy.
Yeah.
So in the off season, when I would come home and go to the gym every morning and work out 2 and 3 times a day, he was with me.
Yeah.
So he saw that, and now he's like, I know what it takes because I watched my dad do that. He watches me now.
Yeah.
You know, wake up every morning at 5:45 a.m. and go to the gym. Like, he's like, why are you still working out? I'm like, I just don't want to be out of shape, bro.
Yeah.
Like, is that okay?
Yeah.
And then, you know, there's this stigma that ex-professional athletes get that people say that we feel like we're owed something in this world and we're lazy and don't want to work hard anymore once we're done playing because we gave so much of ourselves to our career. And I've seen that. I've seen that in some of my ex-colleagues.
Yeah.
I just never want to be labeled as that. I never wanted that to be something that people look at me and say. It actually frightens me to be that. So I just try to show up and put my best foot forward in my life, my career, you know, my work ethic, my children. I just try to do everything as best I can each and every day because I realize they're watching.
Yeah.
And my son Jaden, ironically, he reminds me how much he watches me every day when I see him. Like, my team, Whitney over there, tell you, like, he talks like me, walks like me, says things like me, and I just look at him sometimes and be like, man, like, bro, you gotta chill. Like, you like, who are you right now? So I'm extremely proud of him.
Yeah, you've got to be. But I think, you know, when you look at your son, you look at how your career has taken so many pivots, you know, you've never been afraid to reinvent yourself.
No.
Yeah.
No. I mean, I like learning new things.
Yeah.
I like doing new things. I like meeting new people. I like challenges.
Yeah.
And I like doing the things that people say that I can't do. Where I'm from, right? Like, I spent most of my life here in Atlanta, but where I'm from, where I was born, I can't count 3 people that made it out of that town and done something successful or something granular with their lives. And it scares me to end up back there. And not so much that town, but just in that state of being.
Yeah.
And it's just, the world is a huge place, and I just really want to explore everything about it. I want to explore everything about myself. I want to be able to connect myself to the world and do something meaningful. You know, like I look at people who have unfortunately passed away prematurely, right?
Yeah.
Like the Nipsey Hussles of the world, you know, Dr. Kings of the world, like people like that. When people talk about them, they're revered,
Yeah.
right? Like it's like, man, like I hope that's what people say about me. I hope I inspire. Like I go back to Nipsey Hussle example. Like I remember where I was hearing about him passing, and the Kobe Bryants of the world. I remember where I was when I heard about them passing, and the impact that they left, and the things that people wanted to do because they watched those guys do those things. And then I asked myself, like, God forbid, like, what if that happens to me prematurely? Like, what am I going to inspire people to do?
Yeah.
Or are people just going to have a simple post that says RIP and then that's it? They're not going to do something because I did it.
Yeah.
I want people to do things because they saw me do it, or believe that they can do things because they saw me believe that I can do it.
Yeah.
And that's something that sticks with me every day. The challenge even of waking up in the morning to go work out.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's challenging.
It is, because over 40, you can't miss the warm up. Okay,
man,
I be there early now. I can't miss the warm up.
Man, I gotta get it in, and it's like it's a challenge every day to do that, right?
Yeah.
And I love a good challenge.
Yeah.
And I just embrace those things, and I want to do big things. I want to do big things beyond OTE. I want to do big things as a parent. I want my children to grow up and see that and be like, I too want to do big things.
Yeah.
And hopefully they follow that path. They don't have to necessarily be athletes, but they got to do something.
Listen, you can't sit around here.
Yeah,
okay?
they got to do something. I work too hard for that. So, people inspired me, and I want to inspire others.
Yeah. May 18th, 2018, you tweeted, I will be a GM of an NBA team. You said that in 2018.
Yeah.
Now, God has a funny way of giving us what we want, but not in the way we thought we was going to get it.
Right.
And so you're here now.
Laughs at our plan.
All the time. So you're here now as the GM of what is now really Overtime Elite is kind of turning into this like prep program, in a lot of ways.
I'm very thankful.
Yeah.
I'm very thankful for the opportunity to be in a position I'm in. I sometimes don't even realize it. Like I'm just walking in what I feel like is my purpose.
Yeah.
And as challenges as it is every day, like I'll admit to you, some days I'll be like, man, I got to get out of here.
Yeah.
Like today got me. OTE 1, Damien 0. But then, you look at our guys and you sit and you talk with them individually and you have conversations with them, and then you see where some guys have gone from here, and it's like, that's the reason I'm here.
Yeah.
That is the exact reason. And then you have guys just as late as recent as Sunday night call me at 11 p.m. Like, hey, man, I just want to pick your brain about how you feel about my game and my development here, and if you feel like I belong. And you have those conversations with those young men, and it's like, that's why I'm here.
Yeah.
And that's why God put me in this position. And I'm happy and I'm thrilled and honored, very fortunate to be trusted to make that call too. And I don't take calls like that for granted. It's like you could have called anyone.
Yeah.
You could have called a parent. You could have called a friend. You could have called someone else that worked at OTE, but you called me.
Yeah.
And that's guys reaching out because they want to be better and they want the thing that I had.
Yeah.
And they want the thing that they want. And who am I to not provide that or give that information to help them? And I know, in providing that information and always giving them that guidance, I know in turn that like something for me is coming. And I don't even do it for that reason. I'm just aware that I just keep showing up for them.
Yeah.
Just keep showing up, like Jay-Z said in his speech the other night. Just keep showing up.
Yeah.
And the things that I too want will be provided for me, just like this thing was provided for me.
Yeah. You have created a space for these kids to feel safe, but you also have to do some uncomfortable things in your position as a general manager. And even as I watched in the docuseries, and you guys are planning for a second season on the docuseries.
Filming that now.
Look at you, reality star. Okay, I see you. Wow.
Filming that now. Filming that
Look
right
at
now.
you, reality star.
Oh, man.
But, in watching it, you got to have some tough conversations because you guys have teams here in Atlanta and people don't realize that you also have teams that are in other cities.
Right.
And you guys trade players.
Yeah.
Y'all make trades on these teams.
We make roster moves.
Roster moves. And people don't be happy about some of these roster moves.
A lot of people aren't always happy. I had to make one yesterday. We have, so to provide some context, we have 3 teams in Atlanta. City Reapers, RWE, Cold Hearts. Those are our 3 teams in our hub in Atlanta. And then we have 5 other teams outside in other markets, in California, 2 in North Carolina, Arizona, and New York. And for our in-house teams, I have to balance those teams through roster construction as best I can to make us as competitive as we can. But not only that, personalities have to fit. People with different roles need to be on different teams. It might be a point guard that's needed over here. One of the teams might have too many big men, so I have to move some big men on this team and on that team. And it's an emotional thing, another thing that I have to talk to Dr. Joy about before I make it. But yeah, and it's a lot that goes into that. And it really takes you looking at basketball through a basketball lens to kind of see what pieces go together and what pieces don't. And some guys don't like to be moved. They get on their team and they're like, I'm good where I'm at. Like I've had guys that I've had to move tell me that, like, man, I really don't want that to happen. I like my teammates and I want to stick here regardless of how well I'm playing or how much I'm playing. They found a comfort zone. And, they also look at it oftentimes as punishment for them. Because they don't know really how to view it. And it's not that. It's just, I see things that you don't see.
Yeah.
So this is best for the whole. And every decision I make, like, it's got to be what's good for the whole.
Yeah, because you're building a league. And
Right.
I think that that's what people fail to realize. And that's the one thing I had to look at when I was watching the series.
Yeah.
It's like, they're building a league. This is not just some one team. This is not some, like a school situation. Right. This is a league that you guys are building that is really going to grow exponentially across the country.
Yeah, and at the heart of what we're a media company. That's what Overtime itself is. It's a sports media company.
The highlights go crazy. Just know the highlights go crazy.
We have to listen to our audience. We have to do things sometimes to get audience engagement. And a lot of things that we do to get that audience engagement goes against, sometimes goes against what I feel as a basketball purist, right? But I'm in the middle of business and basketball.
Yeah.
Like I'm the person that sits in the middle of all of that, right?
Yeah.
And I have to do what's best, again, for both sides, even if it doesn't make someone on both sides happy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But if it's good for the whole, right? And those are sometimes really tough decisions.
Yeah.
But in the end, it all works out, and I think people see that it all works out, and they look back on it and be like, "Oh, okay, now it makes sense."
Yeah.
But it's a challenging conversation to have initially because everyone from both sides may not be on board or agree with the decision, but then once they see it unfold, like many things, now it's like, oh, okay, I get it now.
Overtime is a media company, and y'all are like, the games go crazy here in Atlanta. Yeah. I mean, Trae Young coming down to sit courtside. You got rappers. You got all the people who come.
We're gonna have Brandi there. You, right? We're gonna have
Oh,
you there,
I'll
right?
be there this week. Yeah,
Okay.
check me
You
out
just
there.
said it on camera,
I
so now you
did. So
have to.
now I gotta come.
Yeah.
I'll be there this
Yeah.
weekend.
Okay.
So, I'll be there, sitting at the game. But, there is a real excitement for what this brings. I mean, and this is happening at Atlantic Station.
Right.
Right in the heart of the city. This is really giving younger audiences a real chance and a real avenue to experience basketball up close and personal where they wouldn't be able to when they watch certain professional teams.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we have a great game night environment.
It
Like,
looks, I'm so excited to go because it goes
insane.
crazy.
Yeah, it is insane, man. Like I could tell you that our audience is about like 10, 11 years old to about 23 is 24ish is what we kind of cater to, but then you still get people in there who actually have more fun. That's older than that. Right? Like we we have our liquor license too, by the way. So we got like several bars in there now. So people come in there and it's like you get that before halftime starts, you start to see the line converge on the bar. It's older people in there just having a good time, man. It's like a real vibe. And it's energetic. Like soon as you walk in the building, people that work there, we don't have a game night staff of sorts. We don't have people. You go to a Hawks game, you see a bunch of people on the steps or downstairs ushering you in different directions with red sport coats on. Like, no, that staff is us. Like the red sport coat people, that's us moving people about the building, getting people seated.
Wow.
People fighting over courtside seats, people, just coming in like feeling entitled that they could sit wherever they want to sit. Like we got to do all of those things. Kids running up to players on the court. Like we have an environment that we have kind of opened up our doors and our arms to engagement. And for our players to engage with the crowd, for our hosts to do their part. Like I can barely watch a game. I'm walking around. I'm greeting people. People are coming up to me saying how much they enjoyed the docuseries. So I probably sit down maybe about 10 minutes a night to just kind of watch. When my son is playing, I like to engage and watch. But for the most part, I'm getting phone calls like, "Hey, I'm at the door," and I'm like, "Good, scan your ticket. You on in?"
So you meeting and greeting, you doing seats, you handing out the trophies on championship night, you're doing speeches. It's like your job is so all encompassing, and it really does take and consume a lot of your life.
It does. It consumes a lot of my life, and over the past couple of years, I've been trying to find a work balance. I keep getting encouraged by that, by friends of mine, by my coworkers, by my team, telling me all the time to, have some fun. But like I tell them, this is fun to me. I don't know what to do. Like, what do I do? I mean, I don't. I'm just, I'm working. I'm single. I don't like. What do I do? Right?
Oh
like,
Lord, the ladies, they just heard it, Damien. Don't do it now.
No, I didn't say
your
that.
Your DM's about to go crazy now, Damien. They're like, oh, he got a job. Check him out.
Let me turn my notifications on. But yeah, I just it's work. It's fun. Again, having my son involved in it makes me even more vested in it. And then looking at it from the perspective of other parents, because I'm a parent of a kid there. So I put myself in those parents' shoes sometime, and I'm say, okay, well, if I wasn't here, what experience would I want my son to be having here? And I try to keep that in the top of my mind too. But it's a lot of work, and it could oftentimes be very difficult and challenging, and often make you want to, like I said earlier, like sometimes you just want to pack your stuff up and be like, get somebody else to do it, as they say. But then I remember, right, like the things that I wanted. I remember what wasn't there for me when I was in that position. I remember the great people that I get to work with and alongside every day. I remember the guys who didn't make it and careers who didn't pan out because they didn't have, not because they lacked talent, but they lacked support. And people speaking to them, encouraging them. I remember all of those things, and that's what constantly gets me back in the
Yeah.
building. You know, I'll complain about it a lot sometimes. Like, man, I don't want to go over here and do this tour for these people. But
Yeah.
then I'm like, I get to do this.
Yeah. I get to do
Like, I
this.
get to
Yeah.
do this.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and that's the mentality I have
Yeah.
every day. So I know it's a lot in that mentality.
Yeah.
But it's fun at the end of the day. And,
Yeah.
and our game nights, man, it's a heck of an experience.
I can't wait. Is there somebody that you're very excited about outside of your son that is playing right now in OT?
Yeah. I'm excited about our younger guys, like his fellow freshmen. You know, to see them go through this process, to be, you know, wanting to play more, not getting that opportunity. They're essentially freshmen on varsity teams,
Yeah.
and typically they wouldn't get a whole lot of playing time.
Yeah.
But to see them continue showing up every day,
Yeah.
I'm excited about Samto. You know, Samto Cyril and his path.
That's the kid from Nigeria.
Right.
Yeah.
Where he came from to now where he is. I'm excited to see what happens with him and his development, and his future. I'm excited about Jakai, and that's a challenging dynamic with him. You know, he and I have had knockdown, drag out conversations and all of those things, disagreements.
Yeah.
But he continues to show up.
Yeah.
Right? And he continues to be a part of it. And he has his own challenges. But he's fighting them. And he's now, you know, signed to go to Auburn, which is big for him. So I'm excited to see what happens next with him. I'm excited to see what continues to happen for our guys that already come here from year one.
Yeah.
You know, I watch those guys' paths closely just to see if they're applying the things that we taught them. You know, I'm excited about another guy, his name Amari Evans, within our program. He's one of my favorite guys there. He has just a winning attitude, a winning mentality. He works his butt off every day. And I think he understands as well, like he may not be the most skilled or talented guy there, but he's gonna go on and do something special with basketball because he's just a winner.
Yeah.
And he's passionate about winning. He's passionate about getting better. And I love just his overall mentality about an approach to it.
Yeah.
Right? Like that excites me a lot. So it's a lot of guys that I'm excited about.
Yeah.
It's fun to be a part of that process.
Yeah. As we close out this interview, one word that you're committed to in this season of your life.
That was a really good question. One word.
One word. I know. It's so tough to come up with just one.
That's tough. I'll say balance.
I knew you were going to say that.
Balance.
I felt it in my spirit that you were going to say balance. Yeah.
That's what I would say. Because it's so many opportunities that things that I'm pursuing.
Yeah.
But within that pursuit, there has to be some type of mental, emotional, and spiritual balance that comes with that. Because you also have to take time to listen, I think, to God and to the universe.
Yeah.
Like a lot of times, oftentimes we pray and we do all the talking. Sometimes I feel like, you know, God wants us to listen.
Yeah.
Sometimes, to me, in my opinion, I think sometimes prayer is also listening.
Yeah.
And just sitting still in moments and just, you know, what is it that you want me to do?
Yeah.
Like, forget I'm not asking for anything today.
Yeah.
Just speak to me and
Yeah.
give me what I need to be prepared for the things that I prayed for.
Yeah.
And that takes a serious level of balance.
Yeah.
And I'm working on that.
You're working on that. Not my will, but thy will be done.
I will be done.
Yeah. So, Damien, it has been my pleasure to talk to you today. Thank
been
you
a
so
pleasure
much
being here.
for sitting down with me. Vault Empowers Talks, that's another good one for the books today. Find some balance in your life in this season. It's all hard, but we can all do it. Until next time, Your girl, Brandi Harvey. Eat well, give a damn, move your body every day. Peace.